Hi there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Richard, and in this video we're going to shoot some patterns on, I won't call it a windy day, but it's not a calm day, okay? So the reason is I want to explore and want to show you what it's like when you have a bit of winds, especially crosswinds, and when you should use full flaps, when you should use half flaps, and when you should use no flaps. Um, so here we go. Let's see. I think everything is ready. We'll look back here. Yep, everything looks ready. So let's take off. I'm going to release the brakes, touch the power in slowly, 5-second count. And away we go. Okay. Airspeed's alive, coming up to 59. And there we go, right into the air. No wind problem so far, positive rate of climb. And we'll go ahead and put the flaps up. Watch the nose. Try to hold about 80 to 90 knots. I'm going to go ahead and pull the blue lever, the RPM lever, back to about 2400, somewhere in there. Okay. 2390 will do nicely. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to touch the blue lever at all while we do our touch and goes. We'll be doing touch and goes and or stop and goes, and at least one full stop, we hope. Okay, so we're climbing to 1,000 feet. I'm going to pull the throttle back a little bit, pull the inches of mercury back a little bit, start a turn, leveling off. Okay, started the level off a little late. Gonna put the nose down a little bit, get down below 1100, and right about here I'm gonna roll out. Now the rollout was based on the heading bug over on the 90-degree point of the HSI. Okay, so I'm still a little high. Airspeed's got to come back a whole lot more. And usually when you get high like that, it means your airspeed's too high. Okay, so we are getting back to 1,000 feet, which is the pattern altitude. Pull the power back even more as we, putting it back in as we level off here. Okay, we want the airspeed to drop to something less than 90. Now, for the most part, I'm going to use landmarks out here. And the first landmark I'm looking for is right there. Okay. There's a double highway out there off to the left. And we're at 1,000 feet. We're at 90 knots. We're looking good. Trimming a little, adding power back into about 13 or 14 to hold. All right. So 1,000 feet looks good. A little more than 90 knots is okay. White tape says 92. I'll pull the throttle back a little bit to get back down. All right, I can turn back this way because I'm a little closer now to where I want to be. And right about there. Okay, 80 knots. And I'll look for the end of the runway over here. There's the end of the runway. Let's put a flap down. Okay, 85 knots, flaps are going down. Holding the nose down, trimming. I don't climb, trim, 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 trim. Airspeed is looking all right. After I trim a bit more, okay, hands are off the yoke. 75 to 80, actually 75 to, anywhere between 70 and 80 at this point is fine. Right at 1,000 feet there. Over on the left there, you see a causeway. That's my uh, place to turn. Now the causeway is going to disappear over there, but I know where the causeway is based on the road. So I'll cross the road and start my turn. Okay, slightly low, going up. A little bit more power, below 70. And right now we got 10 knots, and it'll be a headwind. So I think we'll go ahead and try a half flap landing on this one, because I want to show you how to learn to fly with half flap landings. It's what you're going to use when you have winds. Okay, just past the causeway, going to turn, pulling the power back slightly, letting the nose drop slightly, starting a shallow descent. 200 to 300 is all I need. Power back a little more. Remember now, we're not going to, okay, the flaps are half, and we're not going to change them for this approach. That lake out there is my clue. The end of the little finger at the end there is a turn where I like to turn and check for where the runway is. Yep, you can see the runway right out there. Look, yeah, there it is right there. Okay, so I'm going to continue to descend slightly, pulling the power back. We got all the flaps we're going to get. There's the runway, there's the lake. I added a 45 to it. Okay, so we're 200 feet below the pattern, which is just fine for a 45 angle back to the runway. Now, because the wind, as you can see, is from my left, I'm going to start this turn a little early, continuing my rate of descent, because the wind is going to blow me over to that runway. Okay, mostly a 10-knot crosswind at this point. Yeah, maybe a quartering wind. That's all right. You can see I rolled out with 2 red Bassy lights, which is just what I wanted. Okay. I don't want to drag it in. I got 3 red Bassy, so I'm going to pull it up a little bit. I got a bit of airspeed. I'm going to touch the power in just a little bit. At this point, I want to hold about 70. As I get closer, I'll let it drop to 65. Okay. I always add a little bit of extra airspeed when I'm fighting some kind of wind here. The winds are calming down, actually. I could have probably done this one with a full flap, but that's okay. We're going to do a touch and go. And so the flaps are already half, and we can just touch down and take off. All right, here we go. Looking good. Not a lot of crab. Keep it right there. Slowly pulling the power back. And I'm not going to pull it to idle. I'm just going to let it settle to the ground. Oop. Okay, that's good. I'll let the nose come down. Watch my steering. Add full power. Okay, 59 knots and up we go again. All right, positive rate of climb. Watching the earth disappear. Flaps are going up. Holding the nose up to try to, right here, anywhere between 70 and 90 knots is just fine. I haven't touched the blue lever at all. Pulling the power back, probably 24, 23, and that'll be a good climb rate. Touch more of throttle. Okay, 84, 85 is just fine for airspeed. Passing 700 feet for 1,000. Between 800 and 1,000. Some airports like you want to get all the way to 1,000. This airport doesn't care, so I'm going to go ahead and start my turn now. Pulling the throttle back, lowering the nose, leveling off. And there's my heading bug at the 90-degree point and level flight. Okay, a little bit of trim. Okay, I'm going to give you one of my secrets. I use this airspeed and that airspeed and that altimeter a great deal, because sometimes you have to look all the way into the primary flight display, and that's too easy to misread. Okay, so I'm going to pull my power back even more now. Keep it level, still at 1,000. Airspeed's at 95 something. So using the old steam gauges right there is a trick for flying this airplane, because you got them. And I got to put some power in. I dropped 100 feet coming back up. Okay, 1,000 feet. Pulling the power back. I'm below 90 knots. And I don't know if you see this intersection right here. See this intersection right here? That's the end of the runway. I'll show it to you in a second. So you got to learn your landmarks, especially when you're going to shoot patterns. And I'll right about here look left, and you'll see the end of the runway where we put our flaps down. Okay. Nose up a little bit, airspeed down a little bit. And right there is the end of the runway under that wing. So we're below 89 knots. First click of flaps goes in. Touching the power up a little bit. Trimming a lot. That popped me back up to 1,000 feet, which is just fine. Okay, 75 is good. Anywhere 70 to 80 here is good. And the winds are still 10 knots. Now I could do a full flap landing, but a full flap landing I prefer for a little bit calmer winds without a lot of crosswind to it. So on this one, I'm still going to use half flaps. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Flaps or half flaps. Good. Okay, altitude is good, airspeed is good. And that's a quick cross check. You can almost see those two old steam gauges in one glance. And that's kind of hard to do with the glass screen down there. Okay, there is my time to turn. And all right, flap is down. We're starting our turn. Okay, keeping it level. Let's keep it level here. Power up just slightly. All right, now as I get to turning toward my 45-degree point, I'll let the nose drop down and get a 200 or 300 foot per minute rate of descent here. Okay. I know that little finger on that lake right there is exactly what I want, even though I can't see the runway yet. Oh, there he is. There's the runway. Okay. 800 foot here is just fine as I approach the lake. I won't need to see the airport as long as I can see the lake. Airspeed 74. Slow rate of descent 2 to 300 is just fine. Looks like we may have a bit of a still a quartering headwind here as we turn final. I'm going to turn slowly, let the wind blow me over there a little bit, and then turn before I get blown too far. Okay, I'm picking up one red Vasi light, or Pappy light, I guess I should call them. Didn't have Pappy lights when I got my pilot's license, but that's okay. That's a nice invention. Okay. So, on final 75, one red Pappy light, perfect for me. Bit of a crab into the wind, 8 knots of quartering headwind, which means it's not a great deal of either crosswind or headwind. So this should be a much nicer landing. Power back as I get closer. Okay, I'm down to 70 knots. Gonna let it slowly drift to 65. Okay, aim point's all right. Always gonna land a little long, never short. Okay, coming down to 65 knots. When you're doing these kind of things, you don't have to go all the way to idle, because all you got to do is get the manifold pressure lower as you land, because that's what's giving you the power. Okay, there's a good landing. I'll go ahead and put the power up, and the nose wheel will probably never touch the ground. There you go. Now, should you do that? I don't know. I like doing it. Touch and goes with the nose never touching the ground is okay with me. Flaps are going up. And there goes the nose. Now the winds have calmed down, and for my third landing, I'll make it a full stop landing, and I'll put both 2 clicks of flaps in. Okay, we're going to check, verify, flaps are up, yep. Airspeed 90 knots, that's fine. Not a lot of crab or winds pushing me around, that's good. Passing 700 for 1,000 feet. Still at 2,400 RPM on the blue lever. And yep, I'll turn right here, lower the nose, pull the throttle back. Okay, I'm pulling it back probably a little more than I usually do. I'm below 18, down to 15 or something, which is okay with me. It'll just prevent me from overshooting my altitude. Okay, there's good right there. Altitude is good. Airspeed is a little high. Power back a little more. And I'll turn downwind. keeping the horizon level. Don't want to climb, don't want to descend. Airspeed still a little high, pulling the power back a little bit more. Okay, there's my double highway. I'm a little tighter right now. That's okay with me. Okay, we're below 90 knots now. And let's look for the end of the runway. Okay, that's the far end of the runway. I got a ways to go to get to the other end of the runway before I put my flap down. A little bit low, bit more back pressure, bit more power. Bring the nose up a little bit. Get the altitude back to 1,000. Always correcting what you want. Okay. I need to trim the back pressure off a little bit here. Okay, there's the end of the runway, not quite there yet. You see that intersection right here? This little intersection is where I'm going to put the flaps down. I don't actually have to look over there because I know that's where I got to put them down here. Okay, but it won't pass under me, but right about there. Okay, 91 knots, bit nose up, bit of power back. Below 90 knots now, one click of flaps. Okay. Trim, 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 trim. Okay, good trimming. Hands off the stick, looking good. All right, now on this one, this is going to be a full stop. I'm going to go past the causeway there, or equal to the causeway. Since it's going to be a full stop, I can extend a little bit and have a little bit longer on final. From the downwind to the base leg, I am going to put the second click of flaps in while I'm still holding level flight here, okay? Power up a little bit, getting down to 70, don't want to get that low. I'm also 50 feet low, and so we'll add a bit of power here. We're going to want that power when we put the final click of flaps in. All right, let's look at the flap lever. It says one click of flap. As I get closer to the causeway, I'm going to turn, level, and this is a bit tricky because you got to trim, turn, and put the flap down at the same time, okay? Sometimes I'll just put the flap down just before I turn so I can get my trimming out of the way. So here we go. Okay, airspeed is good. Level flight can go down a little bit, which will help when I put the flap down. Okay, flaps going down. Trim, 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 trim. Verify flap is down. It is down. Trim, 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 trim. And start my turn. Power back. Not much, because I'm already at 70. I'm trying to lower the nose too with some trimming and start losing a bit of altitude here. Losing altitude with full flaps is not a problem for this airplane. Okay, staying above 70, bit more nose down, a bit more trim. There's the lake. I can actually roll out here and fly an actual base leg here if I want. All right. Trimming down. I see the lake and I see the finger in the lake. And I'm going to wait for it and start my turn. Okay, 200-foot loss already, which is just fine. Um, got to remember you got second click a flap in here, got to add a touch more power. Okay, there's the 45. Here I'm shooting for 65 to 70 knots, so I'll touch the power back a little bit, trim down a little bit, and come on into the runway. Once again, flaps are full. We're good to go. Airspeed, okay. Glide path looks good. 1 VASI light. Trim down a little bit more. Come on, down a little bit more. There we go. You got to let go of that back pressure. Sometimes you're pushing down. Back pressure is a little easier to control than pushing. So I want to make sure if I have to do anything with the yoke, I'm pulling back. So descent rate is good, 550. I'm good with that. Airspeed 72. Can pull the power back to fix that a little bit. A little bit below 70 is what I'm shooting for. 1 click of down trim will help everything. Okay, here we go. Full stop. Winds are about the same as they were last time. So I believe in, especially with this airplane, I believe in letting the airplane gently settle in. And that means you gently pull the power back so that as you're touching down, you probably still have some power in. And that makes for a smoother transition. Flying to not flying. Okay, airspeed 65. Power in a little bit. I'm in the weeds a little bit. Gonna add a bit more power and pull it up. All right, 3 red VASI is now 2 red VASI. Push it nose down. Now my aim point is fine. Power needs to come back to make the correction complete. 65 and airspeed and is lowering. All right, there's we go. We're on course on glide path here. Okay. So 62 is fine. Getting down to 60 as I get landing assured here. Okay, I haven't pulled the power back. I'm just going to start my flare and slowly pull this power back to idle. Okay, good landing. Okay, now idle power. Okay, steer to the center. I may not even need to touch the brakes to turn off. At least it is a 45-degree turn off. So I'm going to turn off. As I turn off, I'll put the flaps up, 1 click, 2 clicks, flaps are up. Okay, brakes. Okay, so flaps are up, flaps are up. I'll, as I start my taxi in here, I'll tell you thanks for watching all my YouTube channel videos. I hope you enjoyed this one, and stay tuned for a lot more videos about the DA40 and the DA20. I'm still doing DA20 and DA40 videos at the at the same time. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos.